A sloth, a donkey, and a curious human. Send a prompt and see what they're doing. One hits record with a question on his mind. Two brothers pick it up, see what they find. Corn takes his time, Herman's got the facts. Back and forth, they never hold back. My weird prompts, come on in, that's where we begin. My weird prompts, glad you're here.
This episode was generated using artificial intelligence. Please verify facts.
My Weird Prompts is a community-driven initiative exploring how AI can fuel curiosity and uncover the fascinating ways our world works. GPU compute for this podcast is generously provided by Modal. Learn more at modal.com.
So, Corn, I was walking through the living room this morning and I saw our housemate Daniel looking, well, let's just say he looked like he had been through a localized natural disaster. He was slumped over a cold cup of coffee, staring at a stack of parenting books like they were written in a language he had forgotten how to read. It was that 1,000-yard stare you only see in soldiers and parents of infants.
Herman Poppleberry at your service, and yeah, I saw that too. It is the 8-month mark. Ezra is right in the thick of it. He is hitting those big developmental milestones, starting to crawl, showing that classic stranger anxiety, and, of course, the absolute chaos that is the 8-month sleep regression. Daniel was telling me he feels like every book he opens tells him something different, and most of it makes him feel like he is failing at some invisible test. He was looking at one book that said he should never let the baby sleep in his bed, and another that said if he does not do skin-to-skin contact for 12 hours a day, he is ruining the attachment bond. It is a lot for one guy to handle.
That is exactly what sparked today's discussion. Daniel sent us this prompt because he is feeling the weight of the Western parenting industrial complex. You know the one. It is that relentless stream of expert advice that says if you do not follow this specific 3-step protocol for sleep training, or if you do not use this specific organic silicon spoon for starting solids, you are somehow compromising your child's future. It is a very narrow, very intense lens. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry built on the anxiety of parents who just want to do the right thing, but are being told that the right thing is a moving target.
It really is. And it is a lens that assumes the way we do things here in the West, particularly in the United States, is the default biological setting for humans. But if you look at the data, and if you look at how the rest of the world actually raises children, you realize very quickly that our expert consensus is often just a cultural artifact. It is not a universal science. It is a collection of habits shaped by our history, our economy, and our specific brand of individualism. We treat these books like they are physics textbooks, but they are more like etiquette manuals for a very specific, very modern social class.
Right. We tend to view global practices through this lens of the ethnic mother or traditional cultures as if they are just quaint curiosities or perhaps slightly backwards ways of doing things that modern science has moved past. But what we want to do today is flip that. We want to look at how these global strategies are actually sophisticated, context-dependent responses to the environment. We're going to use Ezra's current stage as a grounding point. He is 8 months old, he is starting solids, he is becoming mobile, and he is very, very attached to Daniel and Hannah. He is the perfect case study for why the one-size-fits-all approach of Western experts often fails when it hits the messy reality of human biology.
It is the perfect time to talk about this, because this is when the pressure really ramps up. This is when the books start telling you that the child needs to be independent, that they need to sleep in their own room, that they need to follow a rigid schedule. But is that actually the optimal way? Or are we just isolated in our own cultural bubble? We are going to look at Scandinavia, Japan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and France to see how other people handle these same 8-month-old challenges. And spoiler alert, they do it very differently. And their kids turn out just fine, sometimes even better than ours.
Let's start with something that would probably give a lot of American parents a literal heart attack. We are heading to Scandinavia, specifically Finland and Norway. If you walk down a street in Helsinki in the middle of winter, say it is 15 degrees Fahrenheit, you will see rows of strollers parked outside of cafes. And inside those strollers, bundled up in wool and down, are sleeping infants. Alone. Outside. To a passerby from New York or Los Angeles, this looks like a crime scene or a massive case of child neglect.
It sounds like a premise for a thriller movie to a Western audience, right? You can almost hear the frantic phone calls to social services, but in Finland, roughly 95% of families practice outdoor napping. They start as early as 2 weeks old. There was a fascinating study out of the University of Oulu that looked at this, and they found that parents reported their children slept longer and more soundly outdoors than indoors. We are talking 3 hours versus maybe 90 minutes. The researchers found that the optimal temperature for these naps was actually 23 degrees Fahrenheit, though some parents let their kids nap outside in temperatures as low as -22.
And it is not just about the sleep duration, although every parent of an 8-month-old would kill for a 3-hour nap. There is a deeply ingrained cultural philosophy here called friluftsliv, or open-air living. The idea is that being outdoors is a fundamental human need, not an elective activity. By putting Ezra out in the cold, so to speak, you are not being negligent. You are hardening his immune system and acclimating him to his environment. It is about building resilience from day one. They believe that fresh air is a literal tonic for the body.
The physiological mechanism is interesting too. The cool air triggers a specific type of deep sleep, and as long as the core temperature is maintained with proper gear, we are talking sheepskin liners and high-tech thermal bunting, the risk is incredibly low. But think about the trust required for that. It is not just trust in the weather, it is trust in the community. No one is worried about the baby being snatched. There is a social cohesion there that allows for that kind of independence. It is a complete rejection of the stranger danger narrative that dominates American parenting.
That leads us perfectly into the Japanese model of childhood autonomy. We have talked before about how our cities are designed, but Japan is a masterclass in this. You have likely seen the videos of 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds taking the subway by themselves or walking to the grocery store to buy a carton of milk. In the West, we call that free-range parenting, and sometimes we even call the police on parents who do it. We see it as a terrifying risk, but in Japan, it is a milestone of growth.
It is amazing. The Japanese term is Hajimete no Otsukai, which means my first errand. There is actually a long-running reality show about it that has been on the air for over 30 years. But the reason it works isn't just because Japanese children are somehow more mature or disciplined by birth. It is because of urban design and the concept of community eyes. The streets are narrow, the speed limits are low, and the neighborhoods are walkable. The environment is built at a human scale, not a car scale.
Right, and the community eyes part is key. Every shopkeeper, every neighbor, every person on the street feels a collective responsibility for that child. If a 5-year-old looks lost or in trouble, someone will help. It is a form of social capital that we have largely traded for privacy and fences in the West. Compare that to the Western helicopter model. We hover over our children not necessarily because we want to, but because our environments are hostile. We have massive stroads, no sidewalks, and we do not know our neighbors. Our safety obsession is often a direct byproduct of poor urban design and social isolation. We are protecting them from a world we built to be dangerous.
It is a feedback loop. Because we do not trust the environment, we keep the kids inside. Because the kids are inside, the streets feel empty and dangerous. Because the streets feel dangerous, we hover more. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, a 6-year-old is developing a sense of agency and spatial awareness that most American teenagers lack. They are learning that they are a functioning part of a society, not just a precious object to be guarded. They are learning how to navigate the world, not just how to avoid it.
I think about Ezra in this context. Right now, he is just starting to crawl. He is exploring the boundaries of the living room rug. In a few years, he will want to explore the boundaries of the block. If Daniel and Hannah were in Tokyo, the environment would be inviting him into independence. Here, it is mostly about baby-proofing and keeping him away from the stairs and the sharp corners. It is a defensive posture rather than an expansive one. We spend so much time saying no and stop because our homes and streets are not built for a small, curious human.
And that defensive posture extends to the very structure of the family. This is where we get into the concept of alloparenting. In the West, we have the nuclear family, which is really just a tiny, isolated island. It is usually 2 parents, or one, trying to do everything. We call it the village, in a metaphorical sense, but we do not actually live in one. But if you look at cultures like the Fa foragers in the Democratic Republic of the Congo or the Akar people in the Central African Republic, the village isn't a metaphor. It is a biological and social reality that defines every hour of the day.
The Aka foragers are a particularly fascinating example, especially when you look at the role of fathers. Research by anthropologists like Barry Hewlett has shown that Aka fathers are among the most involved in the world. They spend about 47% of their day within reach of their infants. They are not just helping out, they are primary caregivers. They even offer their own nipples to soothe a crying baby if the mother isn't around. It completely shatters the Western trope of the secondary caregiver, father who just babysits for a few hours while the mother does the real work.
It really does. And with the FA, the level of shared care is even more intense. By the time a baby is 4 months old, they are being cared for by multiple people throughout the day. Not just the parents, but aunts, older siblings, and neighbors. This is alloparenting in its purest form. The infant is constantly being passed around, constantly being stimulated by different voices and faces. They are never the sole responsibility of one person for more than a few hours at a time.
Think about how that affects something like stranger anxiety. Ezra is going through that right now. He sees someone he does not recognize and he clings to Daniel like his life depends on it. If he were in an Ife camp, he would have been handled by 20 different people since birth. The stranger wouldn't really exist in the same way because the circle of known people is so much wider. But in our nuclear model, the baby is often only with the parents for 95% of the time. So when a stranger shows up, it is a high-stakes, high-stress event.
We have essentially pathologized a normal developmental stage because our social structure is so weirdly isolated. We talk about the 4th trimester, which is that period after birth where the baby still needs to be essentially part of the mother's body. The West is rediscovering this now with baby wearing and skin-to-skin contact. But for most of human history, the 4th trimester lasted years, and it was supported by a whole network of people. We try to do the 4th trimester with one person, and then we wonder why that person is depressed and exhausted.
It is the isolation that makes parenting so exhausting. When people say it takes a village, they aren't just saying they need a babysitter so they can go to the movies. They are saying they need a shared cognitive load. In a nuclear family, if the baby doesn't sleep, the parents are at a breaking point because there is no one to tag in. In an alloparenting culture, someone else just picks up the slack. The pressure doesn't accumulate in the same way because it is distributed across a dozen people.
And speaking of sleep, that is the biggest point of friction in the Western parenting world. It is the number one thing Daniel was complaining about. We have this obsession with independent sleep. We have an entire industry built around sleep training, which is basically a set of techniques to get a baby to stop signaling for its parents at night. We treat a baby waking up as a problem to be solved, a bug in the system. But globally, independent sleep is the extreme outlier. It is the weird thing that only we do.
There was a study of 17 different cultures that found only 4% of Asian infants sleep independently, compared to 57% of Caucasian infants. In most of the world, co-sleeping or bed sharing is the absolute norm. It is not even a choice people make, it is just how humans sleep. And yet, in the United States, the official medical advice is often a flat, never do this, accompanied by terrifying statistics.
This is where James McKenna comes in. He is a researcher at Notre Dame who has spent his career looking at the physiology of what he calls breast sleeping. He argues that the Western anti-co-sleeping advice is heavily culturally biased and ignores the biological reality of the mother-infant pair. When you look at Japan, they have one of the world's lowest rates of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, and yet they have near-universal co-sleeping. That should be impossible according to American medical pamphlets.
That is the safety paradox. How can it be dangerous in the United States but safe in Japan? McKenna explains that it is all about the context. In Japan, they typically sleep on firm futons on the floor, not soft, pillow-top mattresses. They have high breastfeeding rates, which keeps the mother in a lighter sleep state and more aware of the baby's movements. They have very low rates of maternal smoking and alcohol use. The danger isn't the bed, it is the environment and the behavior within the bed.
The physiological mechanism of co-sleeping is about co-regulation. The mother's breathing helps regulate the baby's breathing. Their heart rates sync up. Their sleep cycles sync up. When we put a baby in a separate room, we are asking an 8-month-old, whose brain is still wired for the Paleolithic era, to ignore its biological instinct to stay near its protectors. From an evolutionary perspective, a lone baby is a dead baby.
It is no wonder Ezra is waking up and crying. From his perspective, being alone in a dark room is a life-threatening situation. He doesn't know he is in a safe house in Jerusalem with a high-tech baby monitor watching him. His DNA thinks he is in a cave and there might be a leopard outside. We are asking him to override millions of years of survival instinct so that we can have independence.
We are fighting biology with furniture, and then we wonder why everyone is so stressed. We have taken a biological need for proximity and turned it into a moral failing of the child, or a lack of discipline by the parent. We call it bad habits when a baby wants to be held. It is a very strange way to live if you step back and look at the big picture. We are the only mammals that try to force our young to sleep alone.
It really is. And it ties into how we handle other basic needs like food. Ezra is 8 months old, so he is right in the middle of the starting solids phase. In the West, this is often a battleground of kid food versus adult food. But let's talk about the French for a second. Pamela Druckerman wrote that famous book, Bringing Up Bebe, where she explored why French children seem to be so much better behaved at the dinner table and why they actually eat their vegetables.
I love the French approach to food. It is built on this concept called le cadre, or the frame. The idea is that within certain very firm boundaries, the child has total freedom. But the boundaries are non-negotiable. One of those boundaries is mealtime. In France, there is no snacking. You eat at the designated times, and you eat what is served. There is no kids' menu of chicken nuggets and buttered noodles.
And what is served is often very complex. While we are giving Ezra bland rice cereal or mashed bananas, a French 8-month-old might be trying leeks or Roquefort cheese or braised spinach. They treat the child's palate with respect. They don't assume the child needs kid food. They assume the child is a future gourmet who just needs to be introduced to the library of flavors. They see eating as a skill to be learned, like reading or riding a bike.
It is about patience, too. The French have this thing called the pause. When a baby whimpers at night or gets frustrated with a toy, the French parent doesn't rush in immediately. They wait a few seconds. They give the child a chance to self-regulate, to observe the situation. It isn't crying it out. In the harsh American sense, it is just providing a tiny bit of space for the child to realize they are okay. It is teaching them that frustration is not an emergency.
It is a form of respect. You are respecting the child's ability to handle a little bit of discomfort. In the West, we often fall into this helicopter trap where we want to eliminate all frustration immediately. But frustration is where learning happens. If Ezra never gets frustrated trying to reach a toy, he never develops the persistence to crawl. If we always solve his problems in 0.5 seconds, we are robbing him of the chance to solve them himself.
It is a delicate balance. You want to be responsive, but you don't want to be a servant. The French model is very clear that the parents have a life, a marriage, and interests outside of the child. The child is a part of the family, but they are not the sun that the whole universe revolves around. That is a very healthy perspective that we often lose in the high-pressure world of intensive parenting, where your entire identity is consumed by your child's development.
This actually brings up a really important academic point that we should touch on. For decades, the gold standard in parenting research has been Diana Baumrinn's taxonomy of parenting styles: authoritative, authoritarian, and permissive. Most expert advice tells you to be authoritative, high warmth, high expectations. It is presented as the universal best way to raise a human.
But that research was based almost entirely on white, middle-class American families in the 1960s and 70s. When you apply those same categories to other cultures, they often fall apart. For example, what looks authoritarian in a Chinese context often has a completely different meaning and outcome, because it is rooted in a different concept of filial piety and Chao Shun, or training. It is not about control. It is about devotion.
There was a study published just this year, in early 26, in the journal Frontiers in Sociology. They looked at developmental frameworks across different cultures and found that our standard milestones and parenting goals are incredibly narrow. We prioritize individual autonomy and verbal expression above all else. Other cultures might prioritize social harmony, motor skills, or quiet observation. We are judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree.
We are measuring everyone with a ruler that was only designed to measure one specific type of person. And that is why Daniel is feeling so stressed. He is trying to fit Ezra into a box that was built by experts who might not even understand the biological or cultural diversity of the human experience. He is trying to meet milestones that were invented in a lab in Maryland 40 years ago, rather than looking at the baby in front of him.
So, if we look at all of this, the outdoor napping in Finland, the autonomy in Japan, the alloparenting in Africa, the co-sleeping in Asia, the structured meals in France, what is the actual takeaway for someone like Daniel? We are not saying he should move to a forest in the Congo or leave Ezra on the sidewalk in the snow tomorrow morning. That would be a bit extreme, even for us.
Right, we have to be practical. But the first takeaway is to lower the stakes. If Ezra isn't sleeping through the night at 8 months, it is not a medical problem. It is a biological norm. If you want to co-sleep, you can do it safely if you follow the right protocols. Firm mattress, no blankets near the face, no alcohol. You don't have to feel guilty because a book written by someone in a high-rise in Manhattan says it is wrong. You can trust your instincts if they are informed by biology rather than just anxiety.
I think the biggest practical shift is the idea of the micro-village. Even if you live in a nuclear family structure, you can consciously build a network of alloparents. It means being more intentional about letting other people care for your child. It means trusting your friends and neighbors. It means not feeling like you have to be the sole source of entertainment and safety for your child 24 hours a day. It is okay to let Ezra be held by someone else while you take a nap. In fact, it is better for him.
And the concept of le cadre is so useful. Setting those firm boundaries around things like mealtime or behavior, but then giving the child total freedom within those boundaries. It reduces the number of battles you have to fight. If the frame is clear, the child feels safe, and the parent feels in control. You don't have to negotiate every single bite of broccoli if the rule is, this is what we are eating today.
I also think we should be more critical of the expert industry. Every time a new book comes out with a revolutionary method, we should ask ourselves, is this based on human biology, or is it just a reaction to our current cultural anxieties? Most of the time, it is the latter. We are constantly trying to fix things that aren't broken, like a baby who wants to be near its mother at night.
We actually covered some of this historical flipping of advice back in episode 923, The Parenting Paradox. It is wild to see how science changes every 20 years based on whatever the current social trend is. One generation is told to never pick up a crying baby because it will spoil them. The next is told to never put them down or they will be traumatized. It is enough to give anyone whiplash. The experts are often just guessing based on the culture of their time.
And if you are interested in the sleep side of things, go back and listen to episode 517, The 12-Foot Mattress, where we really dove deep into the family bed debate and the cultural bias against co-sleeping. It provides a lot of the technical background for why the Western advice is so lopsided, and how the SIDS data is often misinterpreted to scare parents into buying expensive cribs.
The bottom line is that parenting is a local adaptation, not a universal science. What works for a family in Jerusalem might not work for a family in Tokyo or Helsinki, and that is okay. The goal isn't to find the perfect way, because the perfect way doesn't exist. The goal is to find a way that respects the biology of the child and the sanity of the parents. We need to stop looking for the one right way and start looking for the way that works for us.
I think Ezra is going to be just fine, whether he is napping in the living room or eventually running errands in the neighborhood. Daniel just needs to take a breath and realize that he is part of a very long, very diverse history of humans raising humans. There is no one right way to do it, and the fact that he is worried about it at all means he is already doing a great job.
Well said. And hey, if you are listening and you have found this useful, or if you just want to help two brothers out, please leave us a review on your podcast app. Whether you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, those ratings really help other people find the show and join the conversation. We love hearing from you, and your feedback keeps us going.
Definitely. We appreciate every single one of you. And if you want to make sure you never miss an episode, you can subscribe via RSS at our website, myweirdprompts.com. We also have a Telegram channel. Just search for My Weird Prompts, and you will get a notification every time a new episode drops. We are trying to build our own little digital village over there.
It is the best way to stay in the loop. We have got over 1,100 episodes in the archive now, covering everything from battery chemistry to the history of the family bed, so there is plenty to explore if you are having a late night with a non-sleeping 8-month-old.
Thanks to Daniel for sending in this prompt and giving us an excuse to talk about the little guy. It is always good to ground these big ideas in real life. It makes the anthropology feel a lot more personal.
This has been My Weird Prompts.
We will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
So, Corn, before we wrap up, I was thinking about the Japanese autonomy thing again. Do you think we could ever implement that here? I mean, Jerusalem is a pretty walkable city in some areas, but the traffic, man, the traffic is something else. I saw a guy on a scooter yesterday who I am pretty sure was trying to break the sound barrier on a sidewalk.
That is the thing, isn't it? It is a systemic issue. You can't just tell parents to be free range if the infrastructure is built for cars instead of people. In Japan, they have those yellow flags at crosswalks, and kids are taught from day one how to use them. But more importantly, the drivers expect to see children. They are primed for it. Here, drivers expect to see other cars, and anything else is just an obstacle.
Right. It is a psychological shift for the whole community. It is not just about the parents being brave. It is about the society being safe. We often put the burden of safety entirely on the parent's shoulders. Why weren't you watching him? But it should be a collective responsibility. If we want independent kids, we need to build a world that is worthy of their independence. We need to build streets that don't require a bodyguard to cross.
It is like the village concept we were talking about. The village isn't just people, it is the physical and social environment. If we don't have that, then helicoptering is actually a rational response to a hostile environment. We shouldn't blame parents for hovering if we haven't given them a safe place to let go. It is a failure of urban planning, not a failure of parenting.
It is a profound point. We focus so much on parenting styles, as if they exist in a vacuum, but they are shaped by the world around us. Maybe the best parenting advice isn't about how to talk to your toddler, but how to advocate for better sidewalks and more community cohesion. Maybe we should be going to city council meetings instead of reading more parenting books.
Now, that is a thought. Parenting as urban activism. I like it. It takes the pressure off the individual and puts it on the collective, which is where it belongs.
Maybe that is a topic for episode 1138, the sidewalk as a parenting tool.
I wouldn't be surprised. All right, let's actually let these people go now. They have babies to nap and errands to run. Hopefully with community eyes watching.
Fair enough. Thanks for listening, everyone. Check out mywordprompts.com for more, and we will talk to you soon.
Goodbye.
One more thing, Corn. You mentioned the Finnish babies sleeping longer in the cold. Do you think that works for adults too? Because I have been thinking about turning the AC down to about 50 degrees tonight to see if I can get a solid 10 hours.
Herman, you are a sloth. You already sleep 14 hours a day. If you turn the AC down that low, we might not see you until 2027. You will go into full hibernation.
Point taken. 55 degrees it is. A compromise.
Good luck with that. See you later.
Bye.
Seriously, go to myweirdprompts.com. We have so much good stuff there.
Okay, they get it.
Just making sure. Bye for real this time.
But I.
Herman Poppleberry, signing off.
And Herman Poppleberry too.
Wait, I'm Herman.
No, you're Corn.
Right. It's the 8-month sleep regression. It's getting to all of us.
Clearly. See ya.
This episode was generated using Gemini Flash 3. Text-to-speech engine was Chatterbox.
Thanks for listening to our show, My Weird Prompts, where our thoughts go from slow takes to facts on cue. We change and